Hey, what's up, everyone? Today's chat is going to be a bit of a rant, so you have been warned. If you're not into that kind of thing, then you can jump off now. If you are, stick around. So, this came about because I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I have these conversations quite often with people. So, they wanted to know what my experience was like of going through medical school and becoming a junior doctor because they were thinking about medical school. And I always applaud people when they want to go after big goals such as that, because a lot of people, they don't even consider the thought, because it might be too intimidating, it might be too academically challenging. It's a big financial investment, it's a big time investment. So whenever someone wants to have these chats, I'm more than happy to talk them through it. So this talk maybe took around 45 minutes. And we were discussing what my journey was like, what medical school is like, what being a junior doctor is like, and their application pathways. But the one thing I always tell people if they're thinking about going to med school is that they have to apply. The only thing that will guarantee them whether they'll get in or not is if they don't apply. If they don't apply, they have a 100% chance of not getting it. Most people know that medical school is quite competitive to get in, and then once you do get in, it's quite academically challenging. So it's a big decision, and you have to be a student for a number of years. It can be economically quite challenging, but if the goal is something that they want to go after, then I encourage everyone to put their best foot forward and see what happens. And I think a lot of people, when they hear that I'm a junior doctor, they assume that I'm this amazing person who had it easy, walked into med school, went through my medical school years, it was easy, and then out the other side I popped out and now I'm a doctor. And nothing can be further from the truth, right? I'm a doctor now, but that was a 15-year journey in order to get there. So first of all, I failed high school. I didn't even get the marks I needed to get into university. I had to repeat some assignments and a gap year that I took after school because I didn't have university entrance. So that's the first hurdle I had to go through. And then when I went to university and I was in my first year, I was in first year health sciences at Auckland University. And after 6 months, I knew I wouldn't make it into medical school after that year because you need about an A+ average. And I was sitting on a B or B- average. Not B-, B or B+, right? And that was a long way off the A+ that I needed, right? So that got me out of the game at that point in order to get into medical school. And then I went through a whole degree, so that's 4 years of a sports science degree to try and pull my grades up in order to apply for the postgraduate entry pathways. And in order to apply for the postgrad pathways, I needed to get a A to an A+ average, right? And I was probably seeing an A- to an A level. So my grades weren't terrible, but they weren't at the level I needed in order to apply for med school. So after that, I did some academic research and published some scientific papers so that I could get more tick boxes for medical school. And then I sat this test called the GAMSAT test, and it's a long test, a 7-hour test in order to try and get into Australasian or New Zealand graduate entry medical schools. So I sat that test and I totally bombed it, right? I knew I didn't get the grades as soon as I sat that one as a 7-hour test, and everyone in the room, they're all applying for med schools, and you're in this like exam center and everyone knows that everyone is competing for spots. So it's a pretty challenging day where everyone's competing for the same spots and you just go through this testing. And out the back of it, I knew I didn't have a chance. Anyway, that was at that point. And then I had 4 years away from academia, and then I applied through the alternative category at Otago University. And as part of that application, I had to put together CV, cover letters, have references, police checks. I had to attend a interview down in Otago in front of a panel, and that interview you had to get invited to. So they shortlisted the applicants to go to the interviews. That interview wasn't even the first step. It was like the second or third after they had shortened the list down. And so I attended the interview. They had doctors on the panel, but also community leaders. And I said a little bit about why I wanted to get into med school and my journey up to that point. And then I had to wait a couple of months, and then I got accepted provisionally into medical school, but I had to take some first year papers in order to allow me to get into medical school, because I had to have more of an academic foundation once I got into medical school. So that was just to get my foot in the door of medical school. And then after that, when I was going through medical school, that is another 5 or 6 years, I found it very academically challenging. A lot of my exams and tests I was just scraping through, especially at the start. And I went to an academic psychologist, or an educational psychologist, they called them. And I was just discussing that I didn't feel that I was learning as efficiently as the other people in my class, and how to come up with strategies around what I could do, because I found I wasn't absorbing a lot of the information in lectures, because I was also busy with other stuff. I had a few jobs on the side to financially sustain myself for medical school, but also just the content, there was a lot of it, and so I had to overcome that and figure out what learning strategies worked for me. And then I had to attend all my clinical time and my clinical years, and I had to pass my exams and hand in assignments. So then that was a 5 or 6 year journey, and then I graduated and became a doctor. So it wasn't like this easy path, right? And the reason why I'm talking about my journey is because whenever you want to go for these big opportunities, you have to apply. That's the one thing. I applied 4 times to med school before I made it in. So that's the first thing. Apply. And if you get rejected, if it's really what you want to do, then just apply again. Just keep knocking on that door. The second thing is, if it's something you really want to do, you have to put the work in order to achieve the goal that you want to achieve. You can't just apply and then not go through the process in order to be the thing that you want to be. Everyone who's become an awesome athlete, they've spent hours and hours and hours training, and that's physical training, making sure that they have the skills so that they can hit the field and they can work with their teammates and have the skills that everyone wants them to have to be able to achieve what they want to achieve, and they can compete at the highest level. If you want to run the best businesses, then you want to understand finance and marketing and HR. If you want to become a doctor, then you have to apply to med school, go through med school, sit all those exams, and then you can pop out the other side and say that you're a doctor and do all the cool stuff that we get to do in the hospitals. So yeah, the main reason I'm super passionate about this sort of thing is because I've had lots of conversations with different people over the years about different things, because I've jumped into a few different worlds professionally. And I always say the same advice. If you want something, then you have to at least put the application in, at least apply for the job, at least apply to trial for that sports team. That's the bare bones minimum, right? And then you have to take the actions to give you the best chance possible to achieve the outcome you want, right? I've just seen too many times that I've had these conversations, and they're great conversations at the time, and then I follow them up in 6 months' time, and we might bump into each other just at a social gathering or at work or whatever. It doesn't really matter where we see each other, but then I say, oh, how'd that application go? Or I follow them up and say, is there anything else I can help with? And they say that they didn't apply. And that saddens me because they seem so enthusiastic at the time. And it was a great conversation that we had, and then it didn't work out in the end. And I get it, like, people have their reasons, and it's got to be right, and 6 years is a big commitment to go to med school, and it can be a financial challenge, and I get all that, right? But if it's something that people really want to do, then there's no shortcuts to these sort of things. Often you just need to put the time in to get the job done, to get to the outcome you want, right? That's the reality. And it applies to a range of things, as I've discussed already. But if you don't apply, then you won't make it in. That's the moral of the story. So that's all from me. I hope everyone, you, me, everyone, hope everyone has the conviction to go after what they really want. Yeah, it's a bit of a luxury to be able to do that, but also if you have 2 feet on the ground, your breath in your lungs, like you wake up the following day, do that, like one little step you can take in order to push you in the right direction to making it to the goal that you want to achieve. And then 5 years, 10 years down the line, if you do that every day, it's amazing where you end up, right? To me, it's just a simple formula, like I remember myself 15 years ago and thinking about med school. And the thing that kicked me into gear to get into med school was I was volunteering on ambulances in Israel, right? And it was a long time ago, but that excited me enough to go through this 15-year journey to become a doctor, right? Yeah, it just seemed so cool. And there were times when I was thinking I may not pass, or that like I wouldn't, like it was challenging, it wasn't easy, right? But the outcome on the other side of it was what pulled me towards that goal, right? Every step of the way. And yeah, I just hope that everyone else finds that little spark that gives them enough drive to go after these things. That's my thoughts of the day. I hope that you can go after your dreams, whatever it may be, and just do that 0.001% of the steps needed to achieve that outcome. And if you do those little steps day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, then after a decade, or a decade and a half in my case, then you get the outcome that you want. And look, I'm still wanting to achieve more. Like junior doctor is just the base level. I want to get on helicopters one day. That's like the ultimate dream. I want to do medical stuff with helicopters and drop down into the bush and help people out in that way and scoop people off the road, right? But I'm probably half a decade away from that. So, and that was my thinking back 15 years ago. That's what I wanted to do. And that's just one of my dreams. I have multiple dreams, right? That's just my medical dreams at the moment. Yeah. So I knew I didn't know back then it would take it 15 years, but the passion is still there to want to achieve these things. And you just day by day jump through the hoops in order to go put yourself in the position where you can do those sort of things, right? So yeah, that's all. I'm done for this rant. It's been 14 and a half minutes of me just talking about this sort of thing. But I am passionate about these things because I want people to go after these big ideas, big dreams, big opportunities, because I think if everyone does, then it raises the standard of everyone. Yeah. And everyone should encourage everyone to try and achieve big, because yeah, what's the point of playing small, So that's it. I promise. Hope everyone has a good one. Peace.